Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Emily O'Connor, and I am the events chair on our Next Niagara Council. I hope everybody's having a wonderful time at our Engage conference so far. I personally have been enjoying rocking out to this lovely, much better than elevator music as we were waiting for our sessions to begin. And speaking of rock, I have the absolute pleasure of introducing Stacey Kerslake to everybody this afternoon. Stacey will be facilitating our final session of the day, When the House Lights Come On, Making a Career Jump. Stacey Kerslake had landed her dream job working in the music industry and contributing to campaigns for some of the biggest artists on the planet, including Shawn Mendes, OneRepublic, Imagine Dragons, Billie Eilish, and more, just to name a few small people you might have heard of. After more than 10 years, she was burnt out and ready for a change. So in this session, Stacey will share her experience in moving from the safety of the corporate world to finding balance and happiness as an entrepreneur as she founded her own marketing freelance company, Owned Marketing. It's been 2 years of full-time freelance, and she now has a balance and structure, all while learning new things every day. Just like us, our dreams can change too. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to learning more about you, Stacey. Over to you.
Amazing. Thank you, Emily. I'm so excited to be here today and reconnect with some familiar faces and new faces and share a little bit about my experience. So let me pull up my presentation here. And here we go. So I was very excited to be a part of this conference this morning and also talk about my experience. But when it came to deciding on a name for my talk, I felt like this was very fitting, and it really fits to my career journey and how I ended up where I am. So I'm very excited to share my story with everyone here. So a little bit more about me, as Emily said in her introduction, I'm the founder of Owned Marketing, my own marketing company that I run out of my home in Toronto, where I specialize in digital marketing, media communications, and events as well. I work predominantly with music artists and different companies within the city, but I also specialize in working with fintech companies, wellness companies, and also nonprofit. And it's adding great diversity to my roster of clients, and I'm learning so much every single day. So a little bit about the dream. So when I decided to go into the music industry, I was very overwhelmed with what my path could be like and how exactly to carry that out. But it was the band Oasis that really inspired me to take the leap and go into an industry that I knew was very difficult to get into. I was very moved by music, and it was all consuming when I was a lot younger. And I just felt this gravitational pull to make that jump into the music industry. And I knew that it was going to be a lot of work and daunting, but it was a dream that I was very set on, and I wasn't going to stop until I got it. And I was very lucky to be able to work in the music industry for as long as I did, and also get in at the age that I did and experience everything that I experienced, including working with some of the biggest names on the planet that Emily mentioned, and get to do some really incredible things during my time in the industry. Here's a little bit about my career timeline. So I did go to Brock University, which is my connection to the Niagara region, and I studied media communications there. From there, I went to Western, where I majored in arts management. I was one of 9 students who did their post-grad in that program, and I was the only one that was wanting to work in music. A lot of my classmates wanted to do museum studies or work in art galleries, and they were tremendously successful in doing so. And I was the only one that wanted to work in music. So I had a little bit of a leg up in terms of being able to take what I was learning and apply it to the music industry and get some real life experience in my internship, which I landed in 2010, where I was an intern at Dynalone Records, which is a record label here in Toronto. From there, I was very fortunate to get hired by them, and I worked part-time at Starbucks while also working at Dynalone just to supplement my income. And from there, I was doing a little bit of everything. I was routing tours, I was packaging and sending merch to bands, I was doing vinyl counts. I was doing all of their inventory management, as well as booking travel for their artists, their staff, and also doing social media. That was a time when social media was really being introduced. And so I was really lucky to be able to take advantage of that learning opportunity and run with it for the company and really give them a start. And it's something that kind of carried me through my career. I left Dine Alone a year later and I went to Warner, where I was a marketing coordinator. And in this role, I was supporting a marketing team of about 10 people. And I was the one approving artwork, getting artwork sorted for outdoor advertising, also organizing TV ads, radio ads, and getting more experience in terms of bigger picture marketing and more out of home marketing, while also handling my own roster of artists, which was a small roster at the time, but it definitely gave me my footing to go to Universal, which is where I landed in 2014 as a marketing manager. From there, I started working metal mostly, a genre that I wasn't necessarily a fan of, but a genre that really helped me get my foot in the door because I was willing to work that genre where a lot of people were not. And it really helped me stand out. And ultimately, it got me towards working these big artists that I've been so lucky to work with, including Shawn Mendes, OneRepublic, Niall Horan, Billie Eilish, Katy Perry, and so many others, including Canadian artists like the Strumbellas, who I'm so proud to have had the opportunity to work with. So there I was doing marketing plans for those artists all across Canada, also doing fan activation events, which kind of became my specialty, creating really unique fan opportunities to get them closer to the artists that they love so much. And I truly valued that part of the job because that's something that I loved getting when I was younger, and having that excitement of, you know, taking a day off school and coming down to Toronto and being able to meet artists or see them live in a really unique experience. And so that's something that I was able to do and create. And it was around that time where I started kind of questioning the longevity of what I was doing. I was running a mile a minute and I was working again with some incredible artists, but I also felt that I was so young. I was only in my late 20s at that time, and I had done so much already that I was really questioning kind of what was next for me. And I didn't anticipate that feeling because, you know, when we're in university and we're kind of planning the next stages of our lives, I think we feel a sense of permanency when it comes to the career decisions that we make. And so I was really grappling with the fact that I was in my late 20s and I had my dream job, but something was pushing me to look in another direction, but I wasn't quite sure what that direction was. So I felt like it was time to make a move, and I did. And I went to MRG Live, where I became the Associate Director of Marketing. MRG is a live promotions company here in Toronto, and it was a great opportunity for me to still be in the industry, but also see it from a different side. And it was a great opportunity for me personally because I was able to build my own team across Canada, from Victoria to Toronto, and hire some of the best people that this industry has on the live side, and also create such a strong team that they hadn't had before at a time when live music was really on the brink of doing really great things. And so I found that job very, very rewarding, but I still felt that maybe music wasn't where I was supposed to be in that sense. And so I started revisiting kind of conversations that I had with other people. And one story that kind of kept popping up in my head was, after a show one night, I ran into an old friend, and he's much older than me and had worked in the industry for many, many years. And I considered him a mentor in a way. And he had said to me that at some point in your career, the house lights will come on and you will realize that it's time to make a move, it's time to make change, and that you want something else. And that really stood out to me. But again, I never felt that it would come as early as it did in my career. Then 2020 came, and it was, looking back on it, it was a blur. I was working in the live industry at that time, and it really hit hard, the live industry, as we all know, and that it took down a ton of shows, a ton of live events, and it really changed the nature of the game for the next 2 years. So much to the fact that we wouldn't even know how much. And in the moment, it was definitely overwhelming. But looking back on it now, I kind of see it as a blessing, because this was the push that I really needed to make change. And it came in a very weird and strange and stressful way, but it was something that I personally needed. It really knocked me in a way that I was able to shift my focus that was clear to me, and something that I wasn't able to get before when I was really in the mix of all the industry stuff and doing events and hopping from project to project. And COVID really forced me to slow down and think about what I wanted and what my priorities were. It was obviously hard working in the live industry at that time, where we had to make decisions very, very quickly, and we had to unfortunately scale our team back. But it was an opportunity, like I said, to kind of pause and reevaluate what I was doing with my life and my career, and also find new opportunities for creativity. And I realized that that was kind of something that I was missing in my role, because I had been kind of looked at as an expert when it came to music marketing. I was losing a lot of that creativity, and I was getting more into like the execution side of things, which I also loved. But 2020 really helped me reevaluate what I was missing and what were my priorities. So I made the jump. And again, I just kept thinking about those people in my head that had been asking me whether or not this was something that I would do. And also that story about the house lights coming on. I felt like this was the moment where I had come to that realization, and I just felt like I needed to do it. And I felt like COVID was a good time to do it, because if I failed, maybe people wouldn't know because it's not so public or out there or talked about. But if it did well, maybe it could be a good COVID story coming out of it. But I felt like it was a good time to at least try it out and see what was happening. And the other part of that rationale was, I really do think that the music industry is changing in terms of its structure for the future, and how a lot of people are moving more to that entrepreneurial team and building their own teams based on experts and the creativity that they need for those teams. And I felt like that was a really great opportunity for me to kind of step out and be able to offer myself as that solution for people, but also being able to have that flexibility of working with other industries, other teams outside of the music industry. And also personally versus professionally, it really made me evaluate what was important to me. I don't have kids, and I really felt that I wouldn't have this moment of having a career change until I did have kids. And as a woman who values her professional career, and I have a lot of pride in what I do, it was important to me to feel really secure in what I was doing before I made that decision, but also be able to prioritize what I need as an individual and what I like as an individual, so that I can continue to have balance in my life, which entrepreneurship has definitely given me. And it's also shown me so much more about myself than I ever realized and ever knew when I was working in a corporate environment. I was also a little bit worried about how people would react, but I've realized that how people react to good news or bad news is mostly a reflection on them. And once I kind of realized that and let that go, I really felt like I could make the move. And I really got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm jumping 2 feet in, and we'll see what happens. And here we are. So it came time I made this decision, and now I had to get some of the more finicky details in place. So when it came to a name, this was something that I really struggled with. And I talked a lot with friends, other entrepreneurs, and kind of got a sense of how they came up with their names. But in the end, I landed on owned marketing, because I've always been a proponent of owning whatever you do in a marketing sense, whether that's owning your story, owning your audience, and really owning the decisions that you make from a marketing standpoint. And I just felt like it was really fitting to what I wanted to do as a business, but also for my brand. It was also important for me to make connections and reconnect with those people that had been in my ear for so many years, suggesting that I step out on my own and do this. And it was a great opportunity for me to do so, because in COVID, people were locked at home. They weren't really going out and doing anything. And I know that a lot of people were trying to find solutions to their marketing problems because of COVID. So that's where I kind of picked up my phone, hit people on email, and let them know that I was doing this. I had just started out. I still had some things to figure out, but I was willing to do the work. And if they were open to having a conversation or working with me, I was down to do it. But with that too, I also had a conversation with myself as to what I was not willing to do. So what were the things in my corporate job that I didn't necessarily like or I didn't want to do anymore? And those were the things that I was willing not to do. So a big part was, I didn't necessarily want to be doing ads for people anymore. I had done that for years. It is something that I offer in my business, but it's something that I also have a colleague that helps with because I just don't like to do it. And that's the freedom and beauty of having your own business, is that you can outsource or have someone else do those things that you don't necessarily love to do and have them do it for you. But I also really highlighted the things that I love. And that's where I want to work and connect with people that have similar interests as me, or that they have a company or business that I really believe in. And also people that are willing to put in the work themselves. I'm so proud of the clients that I have who are also entrepreneurs, because they're the ones that are putting the work. They're there at the beginning, they're there at the end, they're baking cookies for their newest initiative, or they are the ones that are rolling up tables and putting away chairs, and they are in it as much as I am. And I truly, truly appreciate that. And also just looking at my own personal priorities. My priority is being able to have mornings to myself, whether that's working out, going for a walk, or sitting in my yard and having a coffee. Those things are really important for me to start my day and to start it off well, so that I feel good throughout the duration of my day. And these are some things that I couldn't necessarily have in a corporate structure. But I also knew that I needed to start small. And that's what I did. And I've been very lucky to have it start small and get to the point where I have to say no to clients just because I don't have the capacity to take on more. And I love this quote, even as cheesy as it is, but if you build it, they will come. And I've definitely had that experience with my business. I feel like I had just put out word to one person and I said, I'm willing to help in your business. If you need social support or if you need help with your website, I'm willing to help. And then from there, that person had recommended me to another person. And then it just snowballed from there. And I feel like within a few months, I had a full roster to the point where I had to turn people away. But with that too, I was able to build my own network of other entrepreneurs that I can now refer clients to if I feel like it's a good fit. And they also do the same to me. So it's been a really great way of building my own network with other entrepreneurs to help support them, where I know that they're supporting me back in other ways as well. I've also learned that it's a bit of give and take. So there are definitely times where I'm putting out multiple fires a day for one client. And as much as I try to make my week very predictable when it comes to getting things done for different clients, there could always be another fire looming in the background. And so it can be difficult to kind of restructure your day and reprioritize what's happening, where when you are in a corporate structure, you do have, a boss or another coworker to lean on to help guide you that way. But it's a little give and take. And that's something that I really remind myself every single day, that every day is different. And I have to learn to just take things as they come and take a breath and move forward as best as I can. The gift of entrepreneurship. So again, this is a journey that I really never felt that I was going to be taking, but it is one that has given me tremendous balance, and the fact that I am able to prioritize certain things in my personal life as I see fit, but again, also have those special things like those morning routines that I really value and appreciate. And also too, it gives me balance in the fact that if I am having a really hectic day, I had one yesterday where I am planning an event this week, so it's a little bit chaotic, but that's where I have comfort in knowing that I do have that balance and knowing that it's only temporary, and that come Friday, that event is over and I'm able to kind of settle back into my daily routine. And that's something that I really struggled with when I was working in the corporate world, because that balance, I just never felt that it was there. There was always something looming in the background, whether it was another event or another release or even another meeting, because I do have a lot of control over my meeting schedule, which gives me a lot of freedom and takes away that looming stress that there's always something else. So I'm able to really control my calendar, which gives me balance and makes me feel that it's in my control. I'm a bit of a control freak when it comes to that, but also make me feel that whatever I do have on my schedule, I can accomplish it, and I can accomplish it well. and with as much effort as I can give to it. And that makes me feel so much better every day when I wake up and feeling that I'm going to have a good day every day. It also allows me to focus on what is important. So with my clients, I know that they all have different goals and motivations for what they're doing. And that is really great for me in terms of waking up and preparing for the day and focusing on what is important to them. And that really gives me the motivation to knock it out of the park every single time when I can, whatever I'm working on for them. And it adds that personal connection, which I didn't always have in the corporate world, that really helps me stay motivated and deliver really great results. And again, I'm motivated because it is my business and it is my reputation, but I also have deep respect for what my clients do. And it's important for me to really meet them and meet their expectations to the best of my abilities. And with that too, I think it's definitely boosted the level of respect that I have for myself, but also the respect that other people have given me. I think a big part of the entrepreneurship game, which so many people don't talk about, is how much time you are spending working alone, trying to find solutions on your own, and trying to just figure something out, whether it's your website's not working or you're struggling with a formatting issue. All of these things that I used to literally turn to my left or right and ask a coworker for help with, I'm doing on my own. And at first I found it really frustrating and isolating, but now I find it really motivating, and it's really a point of strength for me. And also it really proves that like I can find a solution and I don't necessarily have to rely on anyone else. And with that too, I've learned so much. I think I've learned more in 2 years than I have in the past 5 in a corporate setting. And it is predominantly to do with that I'm trying to find solutions to problems every single day and on my own. And with that too, having conversations with other entrepreneurs is really motivating, and exchanging these stories, whether it's about how are you doing your taxes, or how do you bill your clients, or do you have a better solution for a website? All of these conversations just open up so many more learning opportunities, and it creates a connection, but it can also create future opportunities for me in terms of client intake, but also any opportunity that might come about in their circle as well. And entrepreneurship is also how I describe it as I'm running uphill. It's hard sometimes, but I definitely feel like I'm running towards something that is meaningful to me and fulfilling to me, where there were moments in my corporate life where I just felt like I was running downhill chasing a boulder. And there are so many different things that kind of contribute to that feeling. But when you're working for yourself, you just have like that little extra motivation, that guttural like feeling of I can do this, and as hard as it might be, I can do it and I'm gonna get it done. And I think that's because like you know that the payoffs are so much closer to you than they were in the corporate world. For me, it could be something as simple as I really tried to take Fridays off, or at least Friday afternoons off, so I can spend time with my family or friends, or even just go for a longer walk than maybe I would every day. And my motivation might be just working for an extra hour on a Thursday so that I don't have to crack my laptop open on a Friday. And so these little points of motivation have really helped me create a life of balance and a career of balance that I never knew that I would have had, but also still be able to play into the things that I truly love and I'm good at, which is music. And I do have 2 music clients that, again, I value on so many different levels, but it gives me the motivation to do my job and to do it well, where then the balance also comes by having different clients that specialize in other fields. And so I'm not in this all-encompassing world where I feel consumed by music all the time to the point where it takes the love out of it, which has happened before in my past. So I definitely feel like I have the balance, the focus, and the strength that I never had before. And being an entrepreneur has definitely given that to me. And that's it. Bit of a fast talker. So I'm not sure if there's any questions or.
Yeah, thanks so much, Stacey. That was wonderful. And I'm glad you were a fast talker because I was furiously writing out notes and questions myself. So as people are formulating questions themselves, feel free to write those in the chat, everybody. But I have a bunch of questions that I would
Sure.
like to ask you in the meantime, because we do have about 10 minutes where we can just chat.
Mhm.
And learn more about yourself or your marketing expertise or your business expertise. And so the first question that I'd like to ask you is, now that you've been operating owned marketing for 2 years quite successfully, do you have any advice for those that might be thinking of starting their own business or going down the entrepreneurial path, and might be dealing with imposter syndrome, because that's something that we all often
Mhm.
face in our careers. And I'm wondering how you might have dealt with that on your journey.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I still have imposter syndrome in certain situations, but I also think that that can be great motivation for you, and you shouldn't necessarily be afraid of that. And another thing that I catch myself saying all the time is like, if I can do it, you can do it. And I know that that sounds very generic, but it's true. There are so many resources out there that you can use to help guide you along the way. I mean, I don't know if I could be an entrepreneur 15 years ago without the access to technology that we have, but I really do think that if you are motivated by creating the life that you want and the life that you really feel that you deserve, then taking the entrepreneurial route is such a great solution for that. And I do think that COVID has really taught everyone that we need balance in our lives. We need to be able to have the freedom to work wherever, still get the job done, but have flexible hours and those kinds of things that just speak to our overall happiness. And I think that will create so much opportunity for people to be able to step out on their own. And truthfully, a year ago or 2 years ago, when I really started getting into this, I was like, how am I going to manage clients in different industries? But it truly does give me a lot of freedom and flexibility because they all operate in different capacities that allow for more time and more space between projects, where being all consumed in the same industry, that's where I think a lot of people get overwhelmed because you're just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, and you're reaching the same deadlines and you're reaching the kind of the same goals, and that motivation really kind of falls away, where having a diversity of clients can really keep you motivated and also help you find that balance that you need. And truly just talking to other entrepreneurs, continually consuming, events like this and other webinars and sessions that are opening up, with the internet now and with COVID, there's so many that are still happening. Those opportunities are great in terms of getting more insight into the entrepreneurial life and what it can do for you. And I truly wish that I took advantage of that more. I really just had kind of a knee jerk, like, I'm going to just do this and see if it's working. And it's not until now that I feel like I am in a good place where I can definitely see myself doing this for a long time. And I want to, like, I'm motivated by it. And I have that motivation of want that I had when I was in my early 20s, wanting to get into the music industry. And that's truly something that I didn't think that I would ever have again, to be honest. And so now that I found it, I have like this new fire to just continue running with it until my next career change.
I think it's wonderful listening to you talk. And for those who are able to join us for Laura Whaley's keynote presentation this morning, listening to Stacey speak now, it's a beautiful full circle for the Engage conference, because Stacey, a lot of what you've been talking about on your entrepreneurial journey has been about setting some professional boundaries and having that proper work-life balance and doing what you want to do for yourself to ensure that positive mental health perspective as well. So it's been really nice to hear you speak after listening to Laura speak as well, because it's really cementing in some of those ideas that we've been learning throughout this conference. But I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the actual specifics or logistics of starting a business.
Mhm.
How did you go about making that actual jump? Did you need to look into getting a loan?
Mhm.
Was there any sort of education that you needed in order to know how to start a business? What did that look like for you?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great question, especially because I'm going to tell you what not to do, because I definitely learned a few things of what not to do. But I think it's because of my background in marketing. There's just a kind of a marketing checklist that you take in terms of starting anything, which is like you set up your socials, you set up a website, all of those things I know how to do. So I set those up very easily. But with that too, I kind of pushed the administrative side of the business to the back burner, which I'm very organized, so it wasn't completely overwhelming, but there were definitely conversations that I wish I had had when I set up my business. So I set up a business number, which was very easy to do, but I really wish that I had a discussion with an accountant at the very beginning to give me the best kind of practices as to how I should be running my business. And I didn't do that because I really didn't think that it would take off as fast as it did. And I highly recommend that regardless of where you think your business is going, is to start having those conversations with an accountant for sure. And then if you feel like you need legal counsel, to get a lawyer and just talk that through. Because I mean, I didn't end up getting in a bad position or anything, but there were just like little things that I wish I had learned just in terms of like collecting HST and like how to file it and all these like little finicky things that I had an idea about, but didn't necessarily know the ins and outs for. But with that too, I was able to find a great accountant who has like now guided me along the way and has prepared me for tax season time and time again, but also like giving me those little insider bits of information that help me. And I think also too, just having more conversations with entrepreneurs, like before I really launched my business. I have a good friend now who she is an entrepreneur and owns her own business. And we talk all the time about like the things that we had kind of stumbled into and the things that we learned or things that we wish we knew. And time again, it comes up to like accounting or taxes. Like that seems to be the number one thing. But also just, I wish I knew how much I was going to learn, both like personally and professionally, and how that doesn't need to be a daunting or overwhelming thing. It's a great thing, like it's an opportunity. And I really wish I came to it with like more of an open mind. I just kind of dove right in and was like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'll figure it as I go. And that's also how I operate. But I do think it's really important to just kind of take in as much information as you can from other entrepreneurs, from professionals that you feel like can help guide you, because those are also the people that you're going to turn to on a regular basis. And like I was saying before, you don't have a coworker necessarily, but those are the people that you need to be able to email, text, or meet for a coffee and just either kind of vent or ask questions to. You know, my husband is super supportive of what I do, but he doesn't necessarily understand what I do every single day. So when he comes home and I'm venting about a client or venting about a website going down, which to me is like a huge deal, he's supportive, but he doesn't necessarily understand that stress, similar to what I wouldn't about his job. So it's important to like have your little army of people that you can connect to and be able to have those conversations with, just to, you know, bring you out of a bad day or help guide you. And yeah.
For sure. We all need that amazing support structure to help build us up and help us navigate our career path and learn along the way. And so you were talking a little bit about everything that you've learned as an entrepreneur and everything that you've learned on your career path. And so we had a question come in, and they were wanting to know, at what point do you know that you have enough experience to teach others and to be able to actually provide advice? And then they were specifically asking about growing audiences on social media.
This is a great question and something that really held me back personally from diving into being my own boss, because I did have so much imposter syndrome. And I was like, I kind of kept asking myself, well, why would people listen to me when there's so many versions of me elsewhere? But I realized that I am knowledgeable. I am considered an expert. I have 12 years of industry experience that other people don't have. Just like those other social media experts and those other marketing experts have years and years of experience that I don't have. That doesn't make me less or more than them. It just makes my perspective different. And the thing that I think a lot of people dismiss about marketing specifically is that you can draw on resources from anywhere and make it your own. There's really no playbook as to how to do it. I think everyone has their own opinion. So when it comes to like teaching and sharing your experiences, I always teach from my own experience and my successes and failures in that experience. And when it comes to growing audiences on social media, it's such like a hot topic, especially now, where it really is going to continue changing as new platforms get introduced, new variations of platforms get introduced, new ownership of platforms gets introduced. And so it's really about finding your own sweet spot and what works for you and your business, whether it's a personal brand or a corporate brand or small business brand. You really have to find what works for you. I have some clients where they are very much like, we want to post every single day. Totally fine. I find a strategy that works for them within those parameters. Where I have other clients, they're working mothers or working families that they don't have time to be posting every day or provide content for every day. So that's where we do like a 3-day week posting, or we do more stories and Instagram lives versus just feed posts every week. I really tried to guide them with like my best practices, which is posting every day, posting within those time slots that work for you in terms of engagement, posting more videos than static images. But again, sometimes the business doesn't necessarily feed into that, and that's okay. You just have to really try to work within that and those parameters and what their goals are. And finding that spot that everyone can come to an agreement on in terms of what will get them to their end goal. There are obviously like the anomalies that they post one thing and it blows up on TikTok or Instagram and they have their moment. But my biggest message to anyone looking to grow their audience is to find organic growth. Organic growth and authenticity will take you so much further than buying followers, buying likes, anything like that. So if you go out with authenticity, you're going to be fine. And again, just remember that whether you're selling something, it's always about connection. So people buy from people at the end of the day. And that's something that you should breathe into every aspect of your business if that's what you're planning to do.
I think authenticity is something too that is really good advice beyond social media. I think just as individuals in our careers, being authentic to yourself and figuring that out is really wonderful to be a better version of yourself and to be the best that you can. Oops, sorry, I muted myself temporarily. Stacey, do you have any plans to expand owned marketing? You talk about needing your support system and having some colleagues possibly on board. What's next for owned marketing?
That's a great question because it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and the fact that I love the client roster that I have currently, and I have those boundaries set that I can say no to certain things and have that balance that I need. But I've also been kind of reintroduced into teaching, which is something that I started out in my first year of university, and that I teach part-time at Humber as part of the music business program. And I've had a lot of students ask if I can do mentorship or have an intern. And those are things that I immediately said no to, but it's something that continues to kind of come back around in the back of my mind. And if I didn't listen to that voice in the back of my head, I wouldn't have created this business. So I'm constantly kind of checking in with what's happening and what's kind of coming into my mind. But I do want to be able to be a resource for people who are looking to get into the music industry or even just in marketing in general, because I never had that. And I think a lot of my career is due to hard work and the work that I put in, but also timing. Like timing is everything, specifically in the music industry. And I really wish that I had a mentor or had access to someone to be able to kind of give me the ins and outs and the behind the scenes kind of information as to how it works. But also from the marketing side, like I love all of my friends and my connections that talk marketing. It really inspires me and keeps me motivated and keeps me on my toes. And that's something that I want to be for other people, whether that's having an intern or having a coordinator or someone to support me, but just someone that can learn from me, but I can also learn from them. So I sometimes think of having someone here in my home and being, a coordinator or someone running alongside me. But I also get that fulfillment working with my clients too, because we're very much like a team dynamic. But I definitely don't want it to become like a huge corporate thing. Like that's just not in the plan for me, where I always kind of saw owned being a small shop, maybe a couple people, but nothing too intense. And just keeping it personal and going back to what I was saying about authenticity, like that is something that is very important to me. And I think which kind of draws people to work with me, because I will always be honest and upfront about my plan and what I think we should do. But also about the results and how we can always be better. And I think that transparency and authenticity go hand in hand, and it's really important. And I've really always kind of gravitated towards small businesses, and that's something that I want to have for myself. So I can never see myself going into a big, sprawling tower, but just keeping it small, keeping it simple, and just supporting small businesses, I think is what the plan is for OWN. So
That's awesome. It's a wonderful outlook to have, and to know exactly who you can help and how you can help them. So that's great.
yeah.
I have just one last question for you. We do have a couple of minutes if anybody would like to throw any other questions into the chat. But I'm curious, just based on your personal expertise, Stacey, how has COVID impacted the music industry? Obviously, everything shut down for a number of years. And I think in some of the descriptions that you had provided to Next Niagara, you said something like, 200 concerts were all closed all at once. Has it possibly changed the music industry for the better in any way? Or are we going to go back to that like traditional live music experience eventually?
I get asked this question a lot. And it's interesting because I get asked from other industry people, and then people kind of outliers, just music fans in general. And in the beginning, I think so many people were just heartbroken that live shows had gone away. And so many artists and music companies were so creative and trying to find solutions for that, whether they were doing live streams or tiny desk series concerts. And then artists that you never would see do those things were kind of giving audiences light into like their own personal studios or their living rooms, playing piano, playing guitar. And that's the beauty of social media. I think it really helped bring artists closer to fans. But then I think there was definitely a moment at the end of 2020 and mid 2021 where people were getting a little bit bored of it, just because they know what it feels like to be in a room with hundreds of people singing and dancing and feeling something and having their phone in their back pocket versus in front of them. And I don't think that feeling is going to go away. I do kind of wonder about the younger generation and how they don't have the affinity with artists that we do in terms of like that longevity of being a fan for an artist for many, many years. And it's becoming more of a singles fandemonium in a sense. So I do kind of wonder if someone like Olivia Rodrigo will come back in 20 years and do a tour. And I don't question because I don't think it will work. I'm just very curious if it will work. And if those audiences that love her now are going to turn up in 10 to 15 years to see her again. But for me personally, being able to step back into a concert hall and see some of my favorite bands has just been so amazing, because music is still a mainstay in my life, and it does bring people together. And I think we're really inundated with decisions right now because there are so many concerts coming through that it's hard to kind of pick and choose which ones you want to take in. And that it's a problem, also an opportunity, but there is kind of a jam right now of concerts that are happening. And I think that's going to be around probably for the remainder of the year, as more artists are trying to cycle through and kind of get the tours off the ground that were supposed to be off the ground in 2020. But I do think that live music will continue to be around. I mean, it's something that we see on street corners and in bars and massive stadiums. And I think it's something that we all use as an escape, and it's important. And I think around COVID too, there's obviously been a huge light on mental health and how important it is to step away from our phones, step away from our screens. And just because we are working from home doesn't mean that we need to be putting in 10-hour days. And so music is a great way for people to step away from that and be able to take in a different experience. So, and for young people specifically, I really hope that they continue going to shows. Like, it's something that has completely changed my life and has impacted all of us in different ways. And I really do feel like it's something that will be around forever, hopefully. So
I personally can't wait to go
yeah.
back to my first concert. I haven't gone yet. So thank you so much, Stacey, for everything, for your presentation and for sharing your story and all of your expertise with us. But this officially concludes the virtual portion of our Engage conference. I want to let everybody know that we still have the in-person social happening this evening at 5 o'clock at Ironwood Cider House. For those that are interested, you can still get tickets under the Register for 2022 tab on our website if you would like to join us for some networking, professional headshots, and a marketplace. If you're unable to join, or if this concludes your time with us, I hope that you enjoyed your morning and early afternoon and learned about setting professional boundaries, how to sit on a board of directors, and lots more. Thank you again, Stacey, and everybody else, and I hope to see you all at more Next Niagara events in the future. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.